In a remote corner of the countryside lived an old farmer named Arthur. The fields that once echoed with his family's laughter were now silent, mirroring the emptiness in his heart. His wife had passed years ago, and his children, grown and gone, were lost to the city's hustle. Each sunrise brought not a promise of a new day, but a reminder of his profound loneliness. The farm, once a source of pride, had become a heavy burden. Weeds choked the vibrant flowers his wife had planted, and the barn door hung on a single rusty hinge. Arthur felt adrift, a solitary figure in a vast, indifferent landscape. He had lost all hope, believing his life story had already reached its final somber chapter. One sweltering afternoon, as Arthur sat on his porch staring into nothingness, a cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. An old, battered van sputtered to a halt in front of his gate. The engine coughed its last breath, and 6 women, their faces a mixture of frustration and exhaustion, climbed out. They were city folk, clearly out of their element, dressed in clothes ill-suited for the country dust. Their leader, a woman with kind eyes named Clara, approached him hesitantly. Their van had broken down, she explained, and the nearest town was a long, hot walk away. They were artists on their way to a retreat, now stranded with no cell service and dwindling water. Arthur, who hadn't had a visitor in years, was taken aback. His initial instinct was to turn them away, to retreat back into his shell of solitude. But something in their weary expressions, a shared vulnerability, tugged at a long-forgotten chord in his heart. With a gruff nod, he invited them in, offering them cool water from his well in the shade of his porch. The women, relieved and grateful, accepted his hospitality. As they drank, they began to talk, their voices filling the silence that had long plagued the farmhouse. Their laughter was a sound Arthur hadn't realized how much he missed. Over the next few days, while they waited for a mechanic to be arranged, a quiet transformation began. The women, seeing the disrepair of the farm and the sadness in their host's eyes, decided to repay his kindness. They didn't have money to offer, but they had energy and a desire to help. Clara, a painter, noticed the peeling paint on the farmhouse. Soon, she was up on a ladder, a brush in hand, giving the old house a fresh, cheerful coat of white. Another woman, a musician, found Arthur's wife's old, out-of-tune piano in the parlor. She spent hours gently coaxing it back to life, and soon, beautiful melodies drifted through the open windows. Melodies that made Arthur's heart ache with a sweet, nostalgic pain. 2 of the women were avid gardeners. They saw the neglected flower beds and immediately set to work. They pulled weeds with a vengeance, tilled the soil, and carefully tended to the rose bushes that Arthur's wife had so loved. They discovered a small vegetable patch, overgrown but not beyond saving, and began to clear it, their chatter and laughter a constant, pleasant hum. Another, a chef, took over the dusty kitchen. She found old recipe books and, using vegetables from the newly revived garden, began to cook. The aroma of fresh bread and simmering stews filled the house, smells that Arthur associated with his happiest memories. The farmhouse, once a tomb of silence and neglect, was now bustling with life and purpose. Arthur watched them, a silent observer at first. He was initially wary, unused to the whirlwind of activity, but their genuine kindness was impossible to resist. He found himself slowly drawn into their orbit. He started by showing the gardeners where his wife kept her favorite tools. Then, he was helping the chef find spices in the back of a long-forgotten cupboard. He found himself telling the painters stories about the farm, about his wife, about the life they had built together. He hadn't spoken of these things in years, believing no one would care to listen, but they listened, their attention rapt and sincere. As the days passed, Arthur began to change. The deep lines of sorrow on his face seemed to soften. He started waking up not with a sense of dread, but with a quiet anticipation. He'd join the women in the garden, his old calloused hands working the soil alongside their own. He'd sit on the porch in the evenings, listening to the piano music, a small smile playing on his lips. He even started telling jokes, his rusty laughter joining theirs. He was no longer just the lonely old farmer. He was Arthur, their host, their friend. The women weren't just fixing his farm, they were mending his spirit. One evening, as they all sat around the dinner table enjoying a meal they had all helped create, Clara looked at Arthur. She told him how much his quiet strength and generosity had touched them. She explained that their trip was about finding inspiration, and they had found more in his small, forgotten corner of the world than they ever could have imagined. Arthur looked around the table at the 6 smiling faces, at the life they had breathed back into his home, and his eyes filled with tears. But for the first time in a long time, they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of gratitude. When the mechanic finally arrived and fixed the van, the departure was bittersweet. The women hugged Arthur, promising to visit again soon. As he watched their van disappear down the road, leaving another cloud of dust in its wake, the silence returned. But this time it was different. It wasn't an empty, oppressive silence. It was a peaceful silence, filled with the echo of laughter and the memory of kindness. The farmhouse was clean, the garden was blooming, and the air was filled with the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings. Arthur stood on his porch, looking out at the fields. The world hadn't changed, but he had. He had been reminded that even in the deepest loneliness, a connection is possible. The unexpected arrival of 6 strangers had done more than just fix his van or tidy his farm. They had reignited a flicker of hope that he thought had been extinguished forever. He learned a profound lesson that week, that kindness, no matter how small or unexpected, has the power to change a life. It can arrive in a broken-down van and leave behind a garden of hope. From that day on, Arthur tended his farm not as a burden, but as a place of welcome, always ready for the next unexpected guest. Thank you for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming content. Remember, a small act of kindness can make a world of difference.